Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Sanders, and this is Watch Art Sci, the art and science of watch collection. Today, what I want to do is to talk about watch companies that seem to be on the upswing. In other words, trying to figure out some ones that were sort of middling and now are sort of either by recognition or by certain kinds of things that they did. So let me get started and I'll sort of explain as I go along what I was trying to figure out. Now, the first one is Chopard. And to be honest, I probably ignored it to a great extent because some of the watches I took a look at one time were all ETA watches or ETA movements. And then the LUC line came along, and those were in house, and so then I started looking at it a little more, and I think more and more people have as well. I've talked to a lot of collectors, and they seem to be very high on Chopard. Chopard seems to be one of those companies that can give you some very high quality watches at a not inexpensive price, but one that's not impossible to get. Um, anyway, and the other thing I like about Chopard, they have a real range and variety. I think the Mille Miglia GTS, I've always liked that watch, even when it had an ETA in it. It still may, for all I know, but I don't think so. I like the tire tread they have for the band, and it's very cool. And I like their world timer, and I mean they have a variety and something I think that people are beginning to recognize. Now, one of the things I didn't know, I didn't realize they were knocking out 75,000 of them a year. That's a lot of watches. They won 8 GPHG awards, which means it's not just the numbers, but also the number of awards sort of is indicating these guys are on the right track. So this is one just to keep an eye on. You don't hear a lot about, but one I think would be worth looking at. Now, the next one is Beauvais, 1822. Uh, Beauvais is an old watch company that was bought around in the early 2000s by a guy named Pascal Raffi, and he wanted to sort of recreate the best of Beauvais from the historical Beauvais family, and he did. And but what he did, I think, that was important is that not only did he buy Beauvais as a name, but he also put together a sort of a watchmaking arm called Demier. And so you have the ingredients rather than, I mean, some of his earlier sports watches were ETA, but the other ones that he made were not. This one in 1930, it's got its own movement, and it's one of the things that you can tell about to what extent a movement is made for the watch is it fits it perfectly. I mean, the watch and the movement were made together, and which is, I think, one of the signs of a very high quality watch. In 2018, his watch called the Recital 22 Grand Recital won the grand prize of the grand prize called the Aiguille d'Or, or the golden needle. Really, is what it means. I think in English, the way we talk about watch hands, it'd be the golden hand. There's creativity. He's also one of the things I liked about now it's called Beauvais 1822. I really like the women's watches. He has some very clean ones, very interesting ones, and so they keep on keeping on. In 2023, they had 3 of the GPHG nominations made the finals. Rolex has never had one of those, neither have Larique. we won't talk about that. But they've really done well, and I think I see them on the upswing. One thing, though, they're probably not going to increase in the numbers except in the pre-owned market. And I think you'll be able to find more in the pre-owned market, because even though if they're only doing 1,000, the more years they're around, the more that are out there on the market in some manner, shape, or form. Now, the next one is one I've always liked, and this is Parmigiani Fleurier. And to be honest with you, I wasn't crazy about the guy that took it over, Guido Terranini. I think he was the head of Bulgari, and they did quite well under his leadership. But what I was afraid of is that Parmigiani is named after Michel Parmigiani, who is he's the movement maker, and he's far more talented, I think, than most people realize. And some of the things that he did, I think he was working with Daniel Roth and when the Chomet brothers owned Breguet, he did something with them. I'm not sure what it was. He was also doing restoration, which is another key sign of a good one. The picture of him there was with 2 Grand Prix awards. He hadn't been winning Grand Prix awards. People didn't seem to like his watches. On the left, there is a Parmigiani Fleurier Tonda Hemisphere. Now, this is one of the older ones. And then on the right is the Tonda PF Micro Rotor No Date. The ones that Terrini started making for Parmigiani were much cleaner watches than the earlier ones. And as much as I like the earlier ones, I mean, just at a glance, the new ones look very nice too. Now just this year, Parmigiani has 6 watches that are in the GPHG finals, called the nominations for 2024. The ladies, time only, men's, calendar, chronograph, and sports. So, I mean, they're really seem to be coming up from what they had been before, and they're doing well, better financially. Another thing about them I'll be talking about in a bit, and you'll see what I mean. Now, another one that has been really doing quite well as of late is H. Moser et Compagnie. One of the things that they've done is that they've come out with a good variety of watches, plus they partnered with some key people. One of the more recent ones was with, I think it was 2023, with Agenor. And Agenor is probably known for the best movement maker around. Even though H. Moser, they got Precision Engineering, which is another really fantastic movement maker. But with both Agenor and Precision Engineering, they really got a very strong presence. They've done something this is this year, 2024. They had a partnership with a company called Underdog. And Underdog has these just sort of wonderfully fun designs, very inexpensive watches. And what they did, they partnered with them for these passion fruit, the ones in the upper right-hand corner. And the package goes for like $60,000. You know, for an Underdog. Underdogs, you know, are easy under 1,000. But it's sort of an interesting kind of thing. I mean, I haven't quite seen a partnership by that, and I find it really fascinating. The Streamliner is one of their newer lines, and one of the first ones was a chronograph by Agenor. It's called an Agengraph, and that thing is like probably the best chronograph in the world. And also another new one for this year is the Pioneer Retrograde Seconds. And it's you can see the second hand down at 6 o'clock, and you can also see this little double snail cam that pops it back and forth. Over on the left is one of the early ones. I think this one is actually before the Mailand MELB family bought Parmigiani. But it had something that was really incredible called a double hairspring. And the spring went like that, and so that the shaft wouldn't move around. I mean, it's sort of like a twin-engine airplane. They have the propellers going in opposite directions so that the torque, like you get on a single-engine prop plane, won't pull you off to one direction. During takeoff, we were told to step on the right rudder so that you wouldn't go away. Well, a double hairspring has that. I have one, and they're fascinating watches. And so when Moser, when the Malin family bought Moser, they were really good. They made them better, and now they've also reintroduced the double hairspring in some of their, not that design though. They have their own very good designers on that. So that's definitely one that seems to be on the upswing right now. Now, another thing that's happening is these luxury companies that are grabbing up watch companies. Either this is a little different than owning a part of them. They own the whole thing. Chaumet, Bulgari, Louis Vuitton, Tag Heuer, Zenith, Hublot. And Chaumet is pretty much now a women's watch company, and I think all of these other watch companies, certainly Bulgari and Louis Vuitton, they also make women's watches. Probably Zenith and Tag Heuer does as well. They also have something called La Fabrique du Temps. This is watchmaking. These guys, you keep an eye on them, okay? Here's one of the rumors I got, and it's nothing but a rumor. In fact, I'll take one that's sort of a rumor, sort of not a rumor. The Sandoz family foundation that owns this vertically organized watch machine, Parmigiani, Vaucher, Alto Kappa, and everything you need to make a watch they have, from hairsprings all the way up to the Michel Parmigiani designed watches. And they bought a hunk of Hermes, which really surprised me. Hermes is their own. Hermes owns 25% of Vaucher. Now I thought, well, maybe Hermes is going to buy Vaucher, but on the other hand, LVMH, they've got money, unbelievable amount of money. These are just the ones here. These are just the watches. But they can buy almost anything they want. Louis Vuitton, the guy who's a top guy in the organization, there was a point, I think, after Elon Musk bought Twitter for umpteen $1 billion, the guy who became the richest man in the world was the head of LVMH. So, some serious money. Keep an eye on them. They're doing some interesting stuff. Okay, now another company I have talked about before, but there is Chanel. Chanel is taking it what would seem to me at a much higher level in terms of high horology. They have a piece of F.P. Journe, Romain Gauthier. They recently bought a hunk of MB&F. They have their own high horology watch manufacturer called Chanel Watch Manufacturing. They own a piece of a company called Kenisi, who makes watches for Tudor along with the J12 models for Chanel. I was surprised to find that they had bought MB&F. I'm not sure why. I mean, it's a wonderful company. If you need a why for that. So this is another company to watch. They may not be Chanel marks on them like there is on the watch manufacturer, but they may. A lot of they made a whole batch of new movements from their Chanel watch manufacturer, but the new ones, they had Chanel one was in the men's watch, and then they made a whole bunch more for women's watches. Interesting to see if where that's going to go. Also, Bell and Ross. Now, Bell and Ross is sort of I don't want to say low end, but they're sort of not a high end, if I could put it that way. There's something about Bell and Ross I've always liked anyway, because they had the designs looking like watches from an instrument panel on an airplane. But they may do something with Bell and Ross that would be interesting to see. I'm very much looking forward, and they've been very active. Keep an eye on them, okay? Anyway, I would very much like to hear what you have to say and what you think about some of these things, and be very much like to hear it. And this is an opportunity to subscribe if you like. Until next time, this is Bill Sanders for Watch Art Sci, the Art and Science of Watch Collection.